And we're live, pal. Hey, shout out to the He-Bags, huh?
Unbelievable job. You know, you come in to have a lunch and you end up setting up an entire podcast
And
studio.
you guys don't have to be afraid. You can have lunch in that corner.
Yeah. We love to have you in here.
Yeah.
You guys have fun.
All right. Hey, you guys have fun. Not too much fun. Not too much fun. We're still at work.
We're still working, guys. Let's take this professionally.
Rhett.
So now how does it feel in here now that we close the door?
It feels really good. I mean, I've been waiting to do something in this room for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have had on my bingo card that you'd be lighting sage in this room the first time I was in here, but here we are.
So I forgot this sage, and I went home.
I think a fire alarm's going to go off.
No, we should be all right. Just let it hit.
Let it hit.
Little 12:30 sage on a Friday. Oh, it's ready.
Just got to tune you up.
Oh, that does smell good.
It just tunes you up because it gets you into the space. So I forgot about, and make sure you watch your feet down there. You got a lot of cordage.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't even know if this is going to make the cut or what we're doing right now, but I just got told to sit down, so I did. And there's a lot of cords. There's a lot of lights. It looks good, but I don't know where to stand.
You know better than everybody. Who's the talent?
You are.
Yeah,
Vince Vaughn.
exactly. You know better than everybody. You know better than everybody that line. And that's the thing that, you know, like we said, when Rhett was trying to give us some beef, we sit down and do the thing.
Yeah, we just sit here and talk.
We produce.
And that takes more time than setup, and it gets no credit.
I know, that's why I said the sage, because when I was coming here, I forgot about the sage.
No, I like it. Are you ever going to tell me? So before we got on here, you pulled out these dinosaur bones, and I don't know what they are. What are these?
Those are dinosaur bones. Grab them. Don't mess up the book though.
Oh, this is wood. This is wood.
You like that?
You liar.
Here, we'll get a little Apollo in there too. We'll add a little wood. So when I was driving here, I was thinking to myself, I felt like I had forgotten something. And it was the sage. Because you try to burn before you get going. So this is a different smell. Shout out to Justin Veely. You know him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He always burns this in the cage.
Really?
Yeah.
Before people hit?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Daily?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in on that.
Yeah. Just get.
Why don't people post stuff like that? I would buy hook, line, and sinker on that. That's his little secret, huh? That's his little fishing hole.
Away.
Yeah, it's his little fishing hole that I'm fishing in now. Guys, I got this from Giants hitting coach.
Good to see you, dude.
Good to see you. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you.
Two-handed cheers.
Happy to have you at your facility.
Mm-hmm. This is good. This is what we always wanted this to be.
Yeah, so talk to me about it.
Well, so for all the listeners out there, we're in Savage, Minnesota. We're at MASH campus, which is a human performance center. And when we first got in here, we did all these different rooms. Like I had no idea how to design a room or just a building in general. So you design all these areas and then you get in and you're like, what are we going to do with this? Yeah. We thought it was going to be this, but it's going to be that. This we thought would be that, and it's actually this. So we've got to the point where people are getting into offices, and we looked at the space and are like, we have a lot of cool people who come through here.
Yeah.
A lot of good stories to tell. Let's turn this into a podcast studio. And it kind of was going by the wayside, and then old Mart rolled into town.
Something's going to happen.
And there's 50 lights in here now, and we're doing a podcast.
I mean, it is pretty elite. It feels like that room, but I will say I did get to see the original room, and it was also cool because it was a conference room.
Yeah, it was a conference room. We use it, people come in here and just do meetings and stuff, but now we do that upstairs. And the place is like, we call it a doctor's office right now. It feels a little bit like a doctor's office, but we need to make it feel like home. Yeah.
In like this room that we're in?
Just the whole facility. We're 1.5 years in, so now it's time to start making it feel like home.
I could see that. Because you're trying to find your flavor, right? If I can speak on behalf of it as a person who was there in the beginning and comes back, I've seen the stages. It's been 3 facilities, really.
Yeah, I mean, imagine throwing 2013 us into this building and saying, design it, or like figure out how to use this.
Right.
It'd be impossible.
Yeah, it would be, but it is beautiful. So I'm curious how you think of this. It's a beautiful facility, MASH campus, which I think fits it beautifully as well. under the umbrella of human performance because there's so much stuff going on in here. But the thing is, knowing how it started in a mezzanine center, and every step you took up in a gym, you might be going through the ceiling type deal,
Yeah.
and it's dark and there's no windows. It's just the exact opposite of what we're sitting in currently.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously a lot of amazing, beautiful stories start like that in so many ways. But I think knowing you and knowing kind of the DNA and the fabric of the facility, you don't want to lose the story behind that, right? And I don't want to put words in your mouth on that, but it's like I could definitely see that being in your shoes of it's hard to just like tell that to people all the time because
It's really hard.
yeah, you didn't smell it, you didn't taste it,
Nope.
you didn't see it.
And how do you pay tribute to it?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
It's hard. Like if you walk through here, like imagine moving into your new home and getting in the home and being like, I want to put a picture on that wall. Now imagine 7,000 walls and everything like determines how every single room, the vibe of it is. Cause you don't do like, you don't just put a picture on it. You got to put a full like graphic on the wall.
Yeah.
So do you go back and post pictures from like when you first started? How do you do it? How do you tell the story? How do you walk through the building and have it tell a story as you go instead of just being sporadic? You almost get paralyzed by like what it could become, but there's a story to tell here. So we have to tell it.
Can we keep going into this?
Yeah.
Maybe we do that while we're just doing this because I'm super into this thought pattern because you want to tell a story of that, but you're also opening up new stories. Like you're talking about the word human performance, and that was not the concept 10 years ago because it couldn't. It was baseball. And it was largely just youth baseball. Now it's expanded into every rank of baseball. So it's like, yeah, it's baseball, but it's football. Yeah, it's football, but it's hockey. Yeah. It's football and hockey, but it's adult population over across here. You're doing PT.
Yep.
So yeah, you're right. Like you have to kind of grab a hold of, well, how do we express, or that's why I love MASH Campus. I think that plays in really well, but it's also like, yeah, it's human performance. Like it's for humans who are performing, and here's all the avenues. So now it kind of goes, well, what's the delicacy of managing the way in which you tell the story? Because there could be a very story stuck in that original baseball, but you're all kinds of things. So well, like a new story here.
And as you're adding that story, you're trying to figure out what is the main point of this story. And that's really the hard part, because you go, do I want the main part to be this group of people is building something really special? Do I want it to be more past driven? Like back when we were here, we used to be from nothing. We're this.
Yeah.
Which so how you portray your business inside of the facility is what people will think of it. And I've always wanted people to understand the origin story of MASH, and that gets lost the further you go. Yeah. And you think everyone knows that, but the majority of people just see MASH as this like big, huge conglomerate of people that are over here, when the people inside of the building don't think of it that way. So how do you tell that story without people being like, I don't care about Harvey Martin. Right. Who's that? I don't even know him. It's like, well, it's important. So you need to know about his story. You need to know how it got here. And there's so many people too. Right. Like think of how many people have been through here, worked here, made an impact here, changed this, players, people, parents. How do you put that onto a wall? I think it's really difficult.
Yeah, but I would say, I think that's probably what happens unconsciously so well in the facility, is that since I've been back in Minnesota for 2-3 weeks now, the amount of people who have stopped me daily. I haven't had a day here yet where a new face has stopped me to say, you're Harvey Martin. So that's like a backup to what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's super weird because sometimes I'll walk through and I'll be like, hey, how we doing today, kid? And they'll like look at me like, who are you? And that's new, because the way that we've grown is, it doesn't matter how many people you have, as long as the staff members who work with those people have the same exact mindset as when we first started. Well, so if that's your coach,
that's what I'm saying. That's
weird.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like what I'm saying is, there's no pictures of me here. So how does that person know who I am? But it's because the origin is talked about.
Yeah.
Because somebody here had told that person.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, it's alive. It's alive in our hearts and in. I know you're a big soul guy. It's in our souls.
Well, that's why I think the energy of this building has remained true to the origin. And it's interesting. It's like how the soul is
That's good.
The soul is in it.
That's good.
But then you're talking more of like, yes, we want to maintain that for sure. But then also, how do you take, it's like that book, Without Words. That was the confusing thing for me. Is like, how do you
Right there, without words.
how do you live in a life with words and without words? Because the without words soulful part of MASH is the heartbeat of it, which exists. So you don't have to be in baseball to feel the heartbeat, but you also want to have words as well. Like you want to tell a story, you want people to see it. So have you go back to that thought.
Well, it's like I grew up watching Lord of the Rings. It's like the trilogy of that, and it's almost like your business has character development moments where you're evolving and changing as a character. And it's important because people who love those, you're thinking back, you're doing callbacks throughout. But in business, you don't have that. You don't sit down and turn the TV on and just get to go, here's the business in 13 years. Watch it. See how we got here. Be happy for us. Sure. Love the story.
Here's a slideshow.
Yeah, here's a slideshow in the lobby. Like, look at that every time you come in. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So we're at a point now where we're trying to make that next step and shed the reputation of being a baseball club while also paying respects to the fact that we started as just a baseball club. Because for anyone listening, you can't see this here, but I'm really proud of this space. A lot of people did it. Like, this is a beautiful, like, I am so grateful to be in here every day. It's gorgeous. It's 65,000 square feet of beautiful. There's a orthopedics lab. There's a 20,000 square foot performance center. There's a full field house clear span in here. We have all the toys. We have the TrackMans. We have the hit tracks. We have all that stuff. We have offices. It's everything that we ever wanted.
We got a podcast studio.
We're sitting in a podcast studio that we haven't even figured out how it works yet.
Right.
But this year feels like 2012 again in the building because it's all new.
That's pretty cool.
We don't know how to use any of the stuff. And the last year and a half, we figured out all of our mistakes. And now it's the first year that we're like, oh, okay, we get it. We know how the space works. We know how we can make it work. We know how the staff can utilize it. So now we're coming into that, and it almost feels like you're in the third movie, and you're like, the character development has happened, and now you're going to the big scenes, and that's how it feels inside the building right now.
What is it like when you're changing characters? I gotta imagine because you're shedding skin, right? Like, you can crush the baseball scene. We know we got that. I can always do that, but you can't stay there. So then you change characters, and you've done it a few times. What is it like when you shed the character and you put on a new cape, we'll say it?
Yeah, I think the key has been putting on a new, you put on a new cape, but you got the same suit on.
That's what you're talking about, dude.
Yeah, it's like I know the things that worked, and the things that work here. Yeah, like we have a good structure, we have a good model, but the way that we treat people, the way we train people in, the standards of how we look, how we carry ourselves, how we talk to the worst player in the club and the best player in the club, that transfers to whatever we want to do. Whether we're working in a podcast studio and treating someone with respect, or coaching a 6-year-old, that's transferable. So it's really just the little pitfalls that you figure out along the way until you really start to go, all right, I got the lay of the land. It's probably like the first time you walked into a big league clubhouse. You've talked around people. You've been comfortable talking around people since you were born.
Yeah.
One of the best storytellers ever that I've ever been around. But you walk into a big league clubhouse and you go, I've been around baseball. I know how to tell stories, but I don't know how to do it here.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out how to do it here. Yeah. And then there's just a moment where you probably walk back to your hotel and went, I get it. I know how to do this. It's just inserting what you're great at into a new space. And that's what we're doing right now.
Well, that's where it goes back to how you said it feels 2012 because, okay, on surface, materially, this is powerful. It's a powerful place. Like when you pull in off the road, what road is that? The main road.
Well, I tried to call it Mash Way, and they told us no.
Yeah.
So I think it's like 130th or something like that.
Yeah,
Something boring.
yeah, they'll do. What was that? I was just in New York. And I think the subway was called the Yankees. Like, you know,
I wanted it, and they laughed us out of the room. We were like, why not?
that'll happen at some point. But I'm saying when you turn in, like, this is what you see. You see this facility, right? And then you come in here. It does have everything that you're talking about. And so at surface for someone walking through, knowing that you're in the infant stages, that's got to be weird.
Yeah. How do you tell someone that? They're like, one thing, this is an interesting little thread here, but I think people are awesome. Like overall, people are really supportive. I think in general, not just a mesh, but I think people are supportive in general.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I push back on is, you guys always figure it out. I don't like throwing away how hard something like this is to do for all the people involved, how much work it takes, how consistent you have to be, how creative you have to be, how many problems you run into. Like, I appreciate the compliment, and it does mean a lot to me because I know it's meant that way. But it's something that I push back on to be like, this is not a fairy tale thing. Like, this took a lot of hard work, and it will continue to take hard work. So let's acknowledge that. And we try to do that in the facility all the time with the staff, like talking about, all right, here's our next objective. Like, this is going to be hard. Let's go get after it. And then you get it done, and people go, well, I knew you'd always had it in you. It's like, well, that would have been nice to know. I guess I for sure can just do whatever I want. It's not how it works. So I think knowing it's going to be difficult makes it more fun and makes it feel like 2012.
Have you had, so now it probably, like, you have energy for that, I would imagine.
Yeah, I got a lot more juice now. I mean, going through COVID as a small business was really hard, especially because we're not in person and we're an in-person business. We're one of the last handshake businesses, as I like to say, that's left. It's coaching. It's people in front of your face. So we went from that to building this building, and we've never done that. Like, it's the most underrated. The perception is that a builder comes in and tells you exactly what to do. No, you have to design it. You have to say what you want. You have to make adjustments. Like Tom, who's my business partner at MASH, was incredible at this, like moving, shifting, to the point where we go into rooms and, like, architects are going, oh yeah, that's a good idea. It's like, well, you should just do all this, Tom. Like, but down to the room. And that's why this is fun, because originally when we made this room, we just knew this was one of our, like, flex areas. Like, maybe TCO takes it over. Maybe it's a podcast studio. Maybe it's a meeting room, and it's turning into a podcast studio now.
It's a pretty big room.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, we use this for meetings, but this is cool. Like, we have a little breakout area over here that I hope we build out. And I actually would, if anyone wants to comment on the things that we need in here, or that you'd like to see, I'd really like to get that feedback, because I'd like this to be a social area.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were just messing with Rhett, to stay in here for a minute too.
Yeah,
because there's definitely space for that, for sure. Well, so how much of your life do you feel like is coaching, and then you name off all these other things? It's like, that's where I think you don't understand as much when you're jumping into business. But it's like, you originally started out and you find the skill set for coaching, but now you have a skill set to like 100 things, and that's part of the responsibility. And so you designed a 65,000 square foot building. That wasn't, I mean, I know you, so there's like a part of me where like I knew this was part of the vision to begin with, but those minute things inside of it is like, that has nothing to do really with coaching a baseball player.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk about it all the time. Like, anytime somebody asks me the question, like, how are you doing? Or what's your job? People come up to me all the time and say, what's your job here? And I don't know how to answer it. And honestly, the best way to answer it was I say, well, I was a coach and I woke up one day and I wasn't anymore. And that's how it happens, right? Like, as a business owner, your number one responsibility is just to the business. Like, that means the people in it. That means the decision-making. So whatever route you need to go into is just what happens. You just kind of move along and you morph into this thing. And You have to have these little checkpoints where you go, okay, what am I doing? Is this the right thing for me to be doing? Does this project out to living the life that I want to live? Because you can get lost in the overall construct of the business. Just saying, I have to do this. And then you look up and you're 60 and you didn't set yourself up for any success. So it's a dance of how are we making sure that everyone here is happy and that we're moving? And how am I doing the things that I need to do while also having in mind who I want to be in my 40s and my 50s and my 60s. So that is a delicate dance, my friend. And it's a daily check-in thing at this point.
Well, how much does that zoom out of that and think about, because you mentioned a few times about what you want. What has this journey done for your perspective of living life?
Well, yeah, I've lived more life in the last 2 years than I'd like to.
Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know me at all, we built this building, which was a big on-taking. We moved into it. Then you're operating in it. During that time, my dad died, who was my best friend.
Yeah.
My significant other's dad died during that time. All in this, and going back to that former character,
What a
fellowship.
that is.
Crazy. Go back to the Fellowship of the Ring, the first episode here. Yeah. You were a part of that. Yeah. And so you knew that we were always working towards this. And so you get to this and you don't know how many years it's going to take, but in year 12, you get to it and you come in and your whole life is happening all in this little ball of fury. And you're going, we're building the building, we're opening the building, we're running the building. Life is happening around me. My parents are sick. My loved ones are sick. I'm taking care of all of that. And at the same time, my job is to be there for the staff.
Right.
That's my number one priority is the staff.
Yeah.
So getting all the way into that has been an experience that completely changed me. I'm definitely a different human being than I was before that process started. I think the main part of that is losing my best friend and my dad. He's one of the reasons that I am who I am, him and my mom. So I think, and I made a joke about hearing myself breathe. I just did it again right there.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was a really good
It was like a period in a second.
That was the old don't cry, breathe.
Yeah. Also, we're putting a period here. We're double tapping. We're going to start a new paragraph.
But when you live that much life, what I've noticed is that on the other side of it, even though you're more sad and there's more living, you just understand better the day to day. I just do not ride the waves like I used to at all. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to experience something in life like that. I just happen to experience 4 or 5 things all at once
right there.
And get through that and go, I'm sad, I'm working through it, but also I'm okay. I can still function. I can still do these things. So I'm not wishing that people go through difficult times in life, but when people do, even if it's going on during something that you had hoped to celebrate, just lean into it all the way and see who you are on the other side, because I love who I am now, but I'm definitely trying to figure out who I am too.
Well, don't you feel like that because that's such an explosion. That's why I use the word paradox, because it's the most materially happy time ever. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, it's it gets plastered with that same moment in your life ends up being this tragedy.
Yeah.
So experiencing one of those would have been loud.
Yeah. Too much. One of those would have been a little too much.
One of those was loud. And then you did both sides. And then, so I think of it as there's 2 things that come to me that are really interesting about that. Is that obviously, yeah, you probably come out of that an entirely different person, but then it's inevitable that you had to go into an unknown because it was going to happen. It was happening no matter what. So it's 2 massive unknowns that in general you're going to be a different person regardless. But did you ever have a moment in time of that where it was was it too big that you didn't have the time to be I'm not you had to handle it. You had to handle the death, but you also had to manage a business and your responsibility to people and this new thing.
Yep.
And both of them were so loud. Were you even able to process it, or did you just have to surrender to that and
What a
to be in it.
great question. I think there's two. One, you have to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely don't attack it. At least I didn't. I didn't attack it, but I was willing to know that I had to live in it.
Mm.
And I was lucky enough. The unique part about this place is that I work with my friends,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how to describe that to people. Like the majority of people who have been here have worked here for 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've lived with people that work here. I know everyone. I mean, we have wives come in for lunch. Like that's the type of place that this is.
Yeah.
So it gave me an opportunity to see that network completely take over for me and run everything. Everyone here stepped up, did all of my jobs, like told me to go away, were over supportive, showed up with dinner, showed up with foods, told me to take as much time as I needed. And if I didn't have this, like I would not be back into this yet. If I was just somewhere that I was a number, I think I'd really still be struggling.
Mm.
But the step up in the community that's here, you find out a lot about people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you flew out,
Yeah.
for everyone here. Like I hadn't seen Harvey in a long time. He's out traveling. We always talk about our dad, Jimbo Slice. His dad's I would consider him one of my best friends. I mean, I've had some great times with him. And so Harvey flew out to be at the funeral, and I had college teammates who randomly showed up, flew out for the funeral.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was a sold out house. And while my dad deserved that in general, it was also cool to see people just, support me personally on that side, whether it was the funeral or after or supportive. And I just push for people to build their community, not their network. Like building a network is important, but building a community is different. Because at some point you're going to have to lean on your community. You're going to have to lean on those people. No one's going to get away from that part. So I'm glad I had that.
That's pretty powerful, thinking like that.
Yeah.
Because and this is a generalization, I feel like one of the things that you've been so successful at is the community aspect of that, for sure. Like you've just grown, and you've hung on to that community aspect. But what's weird is it's like we're like stressed to network. We're as a society.
Yeah.
It's like, so, and I've never really thought about what you just said, the difference between community and networking. And the community takes so much time, and it's so much presence.
It's a slow burn. Community is a slow burn. Network's important, but a network is there when a network needs you.
Right.
A community there is when you need your community. That's the flip of it, right? Like your network, it's the you're dinging in and out, you're talking to each other. You might have a good relationship, but are those people showing up when you really need them? That's your community.
Yeah.
And that's just important to me. I mean, it's just always has been important to me. I want to live a life where I have a community and where I can celebrate others. And once you start getting into that headspace, life is so much more rewarding because a lot of good stuff happens too. And if you're seeing a lot of really good things happen all the time for people you care about in your community, you're more joyful, you're more filled, you're more happy. So I try to do that, and the good times are always better than the bad. But when you're a part of that community, you just got to understand you're in for the ups and the downs. You don't get to choose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just a part of the network.
Well, that's so good, dude. I've never really thought about that. I'll probably think more on that.
Get the drum out, beat that thing, get the sound bowls out.
So okay, if you zoom out entirely and philosophize on the State of the Union, we'll say it just seems so hard what is community in the 21st century? Of all the people I know, Logan, I don't know if you know Logan Gelbert in LA.
No.
He's a really good friend of mine, but very similar. Like that's part of the reason why I like both of you guys. They're just so similar, and he's sort of way different vibe, obviously, of being in Venice Beach, but like similar concepts, like the way in which the leader of the hierarchy holds tight to the community.
Yeah.
And is just going to like put the flag in the ground and like battle for it. And I feel the same benefit internally when I go to his place. Mm-hmm. I can feel that, right? Mm-hmm. So, but where I'm going more so is like in life in general, because of the way that like literally the fabric of life now, it's like hard to even grasp the concept of community with everything that's happening.
Yeah, and it's what you expose yourself to, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of fake community out there. There's a lot of fake networks. I think taking a step back and realizing who's in your community is really important. And sometimes certain events like trigger that and you find those things out. But I think it's something that people should practice at all times. And the reason they should practice it is because there should be outreach involved in that. Like if I have somebody that I care about, there should be consistent outreach by me. Just check in, seeing how they're doing, celebrating their wins, instead of being reactive on just the negative things that happen. So you're always going to get people who reach out on the negative things, who love you and want to support you. The flip of that is like, who's celebrating the wins?
Sure.
Who's texting you during the wins? Who's promoting the wins? Who's FaceTiming you when you have a kid? You know, Harp picked up in the dang delivery room for me,
Big O.
which was sweet. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, you picked it.
I'll still talk about that.
I turned it around to Chelsea and she's like, hi, you know, like, I don't know about this, but I was genuinely so happy for you. And I just think that takes like work, like consistent thought work.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, how much time do you have? How much energy do you have for community? Like,
I plan it. I'm not gonna lie. I try to think about it, but last night I was talking to Kelsey and she was like, what time are you gonna be back home? And I said, honestly, I thought about this week. Like, I was really disconnected from everybody. I got a podcast with Harvey at noon. I'm just gonna be social today. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm literally gonna go in there and just talk to people. I'm not gonna do any work. My work today is gonna be being social.
Yeah, but do you think, I guess I'm trying to phrase this in a way, like, do you think that, like, there's so many people here at MASH. Like, you try to meet everybody and give them time, all those things, I understand that. But it's like, how realistic is it that you have a super deep relationship with 500 people? And there's more than 500 people, but I'm just trying to create something.
Yeah.
You know, like, is it, like, where do you find that? What is it? Like,
It's natural, right? You can't force it. So if you're with people and you're constantly just having the mindset of genuinely caring about others, other people are also going to put up, you know, that's enough, you know,
Sure.
You've gotten to here. And so it's watching those conversations, paying attention in their outreach for things that they're struggling with. So feeling like, oh, we're going to go a little bit deeper into the onion here. Let's keep going. You feel that out together until you realize where you're at. And some people will always only want you on, you know, layer 2, layer 3. And that's okay. That's fine. You're never going to be at the core with everybody. But I think the more people you can get to the core with, the better. You just don't force it.
You just be you.
You just be yourself. And then they pick, you know, other people get to pick. I don't get to pick if you like me or not. I can try. I can do the things that I think are important. But that doesn't mean I'm going to hit it on the head with you.
So how much of in the last couple years, last 2 years specifically, where do you stand now with your awareness to who you are?
Oh, I guess on a day-to-day, I'm closer to it. And on a long term, I'm further away from it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when I first started this, it was like, I didn't want to be successful or make a difference to be famous or anything, but like, it was important to me.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted people to know that I was a hard worker and that I did things well. And that's still important to me, but certainly not to the extent that it was before from a validation perspective. And so when that person dies, as you say all the time, like when that person in you dies, you are more consistent on a day-to-day basis. But I'm further away now from who I'm going to end up being compared to the first 35 years of my life where I was on the same exact path. So I was the same path, evolving, hit 35, hit this big building milestone, hit these big lifetime milestones. And then the other side of that, you become a better person on the day-to-day, but you're also going, okay, well, I'm here now. you know, but also I've lost people that I love that I planned on seeing my grandkids. And okay, that's not a thing anymore.
Right.
So projecting your future self is a lot more difficult. I think the more that you're in touch with your day-to-day self.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thing. So I think the more people can realize like it's going to be push-pull no matter what. I'd like to get a little bit more into the understanding future me, just a little bit. But I'll take where I'm at now compared to before where I was chasing future me. That's fine. I'd rather not know who he is.
Well, that's what gets weird, right? You sort of let that go. I think you and I, one of the things that's made us so compatible in our younger selves is we were driven by that former us.
Oh, yeah.
And that former us could withstand such things. And I think that was something that made you a really good athlete, obviously made you really successful as an entrepreneur. And I remember some of those early days, right? Because if you don't have the way that I've really come to understand it is ego and essence. Like your essence is the spiritual self of who you are. Like you don't know who it is. Mm-hmm. Like you get closer to feeling it, but you never know.
Yeah, you're like, Abby?
Yeah, what is this? You know? It's like the ego side of it is your mind, body, material side. So it's like when you were 22 and you went, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you went full tilt after the professional baseball, stint. Now I'm going to come here and be an entrepreneur, and you were killing it like right from the jump, and you were working, we had great times too.
Oh, yeah.
We were partiers.
We had a lot of fun.
And we were both. We were partiers. We were work harder.
We had the juice.
We had the whole thing. But like, I think a lot of like, you were a very successful entrepreneur from the beginning. And I think a lot of that can be driven because of the ego and the desire to be seen and validated and kind of like maybe overcome what was happening at the end of baseball.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because as you're saying it, I was like, geez, I really am kind of in I don't want to call it a midlife crisis. That's the wrong word, but I am at midlife because that person you're describing, you're so spot on. I was competing against past Steve. I was competing against, McGuiggan will probably make it to the big leagues or he'll do this or he'll do that. And you felt like you disappointed a lot of people.
Sure.
Because it was all external, right? Like you wanted to make it, but the majority of why I wanted to be a professional baseball player was to make my family proud, to make my friends proud, all these.
Right.
It really didn't have anything to do with making me proud.
Right.
And you don't know that when you're doing it. That's why I've been on some podcasts where people will say like, when did you think that you would be in the big leagues? I'm like, I can't even describe to you how much I was certain of it my entire life. Yeah. Like it's impossible to describe how certain I was that I would be in the big leagues. Like I think people can't identify that unless they were deep in it. Like I know you can because you got that ego in you where it's like, I'm special. I will be the one who figures this out and gets the ESPN story. And so when we first started, I was not only dealing with that, but I was fighting uphill saying, I'm still important,
Yeah.
But it flips at that point because nobody else thinks you are. And you're trying to prove to them that you are.
Right.
And through that journey, you figure out yourself. And then on the back half of figuring out yourself, you go, well, shit, I'm not who I thought I was. And now who am I in the future? And here we are doing a podcast about it.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's wild. So that's where we're at in the timeline.
It's beautiful. It's what we were talking about when we went on that walk last week, right? You go around the world to realize you're the world. And it's just the most frustrating path of all time. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're just here and you have all these things in the toys. And in reality, it's okay. Let's instead of me talking about that, let me ask a question around that. So now you have egotistically, pretty tight setup.
Yeah, 22-year-old me walks in here. He's like, yeah, you did it.
Right. And so then you have, okay, let's think about that. You are sitting in the thing that 22-year-old was going to use externally to solve all the problems. Mm-hmm. And now you have that and you don't have the ego of the 22-year-old.
Yeah.
So what is that? What is the meaning of that? What's your take on that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had a better answer for that, but I don't know. I think that's why when I say like midlife, that's the reason that I'm confident and comfortable because I went through that and now I know where I am. but it's more so like rebirthing and figuring out what's on the other side of that, because you realize that the parade lasts one day. It's one day. Like, we had the open house, and I have never been more proud in my entire life. I was so proud because there was a community. Like, I don't know if this ends up going, if we can get Rhett to show some footage of this, like, there were thousands of people here.
I was here. It was wild.
And I didn't know how many people were going to show up, but so many generations of MASH showed up to that by the end of that night, I had a after party at my house. I fell asleep on the couch. It was on New Year's. So I was sleeping on the couch. Everyone was still there hanging out. And I was dead asleep because of how, like, to me, it was like 13 years of just time in that night. It wasn't even just the fact that it was that one night. It was like 13 years of, we did it.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, you get to the other side of that and you realize, well, the good news is you didn't do it because you're actually just massively in debt. And you got to get to work.
Yeah.
And so that journey has been fun to go through, and watching the identity of the staff like evolve. So when we started, we were all kids, and I mean, it was so fun. Like, I would love to tell a story. I hope we do that. I do tell a bunch of funny stories from back when we first started, but it was easy because you went to work, you went home, you had drinks together, you went out, you went to work, you went home, you had drinks together. There was no responsibility. And now, half the staff has kids. The other half is getting married, just got married, just about to have kids. So you're constantly, as a business owner, if you grow up with the people in the business, chasing the lifestyle changes that are needed to keep the business growing. And so now we're entering the phase of, how do we make sure that all these people can continue to work and grow here while also working and growing their family? Working the 14-hour Sunday shift ain't on the table anymore.
Yeah.
So how do you evolve and do that? And that's kind of the next challenge, is making sure that all the people who have built this are rewarded for that. And so that's the phase we're in right now. Like, how do we do this and get over the hump now that we're in the building? How do we make it successful? That is the short-term mindset. And when it's something that important that affects that many people, you really don't forecast past that. You just like live in the moment. It's like super present, just like we were in 2012 when it was just drink, coach,
present.
whatever. You were just present. Yeah, you were getting burgers and you were hanging out and you were having conversations. And I think that's an interesting thing. When you're really going through it and you're in the tough times, there's way less conversation. What I've noticed is that when you're motoring, and even if it's difficult, but you're like all on the same page, pulling the rope, you just see so much more casual moments, working, talking, creative. And you feel that. Anyone in a small business knows what I'm talking about. The difference between going in a room and being like, what do we think this should be today? And people bop, 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 compared to, what do we think this should be today? I don't know, man. This is like our third meeting this week. There's changes.
Sure.
So it's finding the way to get the creativity back in now that this huge goal was accomplished. So that's where we're at now. We're refining the creativity, which this helps a lot.
I think that one of the really special things that you've gotten to experience because of this journey is what you just talked about, of being able to shift identities, and being able to, you personally shift identities and being someone different and still being the leader. But then two, like the acceptance of how have you, because you're really good at this, but how have you learned how to accept those changes in the people that work with you? Because you have had to accept people's literally personality changes, like behavioral changes.
Well, and decision changes in life, right? Like when you worked here and you decided to go do something else, I viewed that as a failure on my part because the business that we created didn't provide you the opportunities that you needed to succeed. I think the flip of that is now I realize that our business gave you the opportunity you needed to succeed.
100%.
And it just didn't happen to be in MASH. It was through an avenue of MASH that led you individually to the passion that you have. So my questions now to staff are much more, hey, are you going the route that you want to go? Are we putting you in positions that you want to be in? What's important to you? And that seems simple, but it's way easier to say the business needs this. It's much harder to say, what do you want to do? Here's how you do it in order for what the business needs.
Yeah.
It's more complicated that way, but it's better.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of the ego, going away, is you don't see that self-importance. If you're building that relationship with that other person, you want to see them be successful. If it's time for them to go, it's time for them to go.
Yeah.
Let them go.
Yeah.
Make sure you support them as they go. It doesn't have to be this epic failure thing anymore, which it felt like when we first started.
Well, I agree. I think that that's also part of like the maturation phase for all of us. We have a unique relationship to that because we went through that together, and then I'm sitting in MASH X amount of years later doing a podcast, like I'm back in the community. And I think that we did a great job of like rebuilding that and rekindling that and seeing where it was at. One of the things that I've been thinking about on this podcast that you've mentioned a few times about working with friends, because I remember when you and I were 22, I mean, we've always been best of friends, but we were like, because of pure time and circumstances, we were best of friends.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just purely...
We were in the same room. We were literally roommates.
Yeah, we did everything together. Yeah. Every single moment of the day was like the thing. So I think when you're in that environment, like you're obviously thinking and living a certain way, you're perceiving the world a certain way, which is awesome. And it was awesome. And I remember I feel like I have some of the faces in my head of the adults, the older adults that used to say to us, like, you friends don't work together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I remember having some of those conversations and just being so disagreeable with that in the moment. And I don't disagree or agree with that comment now. I agree with that comment now for the people that we were when we were 22. Mm-hmm. Because when you're extremely living in your ego at that time, which it's not like we're not unique from that. Like, yep. We're like, that's kind of how it is. Mm-hmm. Like, you start reality as a young person and everything that is praised is external. So it's like, you kind of like unconsciously go, okay, well, that's what makes people love me. So I should probably try to play in the big leagues.
Like a couple babies seeing, oh, that's funny, I'll laugh.
Yeah, so
that's what it was.
You just like find a way to do that. And so I think like what's interesting is, in my life, that was probably one of the first experiences I had as a person where I didn't understand that at the time.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't know that,
mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I just went back. I mean, I'm not working with the Giants anymore, and I just spent a week with the staff and players on the Giants.
That's how you know it was good.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the most enjoyable couple days, hugging people, loving them. But it was also, when that journey ended, it was 10 years after this.
Yeah.
And I was just like able to be like, that was awesome. Like, love you guys.
See you on the flip side.
Guys,
run into you.
Yeah, best of luck. Take care. And I just think that that for me specifically, that was like a time in my life that I just did not have the awareness to talk through those things. It was like you had someone who you were really close with, you're best friends with them, and so you just expect them to agree with what you're doing, mm-hmm. or what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you can get hurt at young ages, and those sort of things. But I think for you as an owner, and you can comment on that for sure, we can dive into that if we want, but I think for you as an owner, I was probably loud in your experience, like a loud experience of yours, purely from our relationship. But I feel like you have grown in the ability to listen to people and listen to where people are at tremendously. I'm not going to say it's because of our relationship, but I feel like that's probably one of the attributes you have to be a successful owner of a business, team, or anything.
Yeah, especially if you value the team members.
Mm-hmm.
It's the flip of, when that was going on, it was more so, just listen to what I'm saying. If you do what I say, we'll get where we need to go. And it was with the best intentions for the people, but the messaging was incorrect. Mm-hmm. It should have been more understanding what you wanted, what person X wanted within the vision of the company, because everyone goes home to a different house, to a different family, to a different set of rules.
Yeah.
And so if I didn't learn those lessons in the other two facilities, we'd be screwed right now, because this business is different. It is not a 9-to-5 business. It is all gray area. It's all nuance. It's all time off here, more work time there. Need this, need that. Like, I'm going to travel for 3 weeks. I'm going to travel for 3 days. Like, there is no playbook here. So if you try to make it too corporate, it'll never work. So you have to know the people, and they have to know my goals on the other side of it too. And I think that was the final piece that was missing. Was the first part was me saying, do this and you'll be successful. I promise I'll take care of you. The second part was, that ain't working the way it should. Let's start listening to people on what they want and what they care about in life. And then I think we really hit our stride when it was, okay, I hear you on that. However, I have hopes and dreams too at the business that I'm an owner at. Here's what I need from you. Here's our middle ground.
Nice.
And I just find those way faster.
I bet. Yeah.
If that makes it, like, that's the difference, is finding I get what you're saying here, but do you hear me here? Okay. If you hear me here, let's do this. 'Cause then we both win. Bam. We're there. We go. And that was like the 3-step process that made our business start really flowing from getting stalemated and everything being difficult to just free flowing problem solving.
What is your take on just communication in general? How do you feel if you're given a master class on how to communicate? What's your like, gotta know these things, gotta have this in your awareness?
Be authentic, and speak what you're thinking more often. There's so much buildup, and people are trying to like say it at the right time, say it in the right way, instead of coming in and saying, here's what's going on right now. Here's what I feel right now. The problem with that is you have to be able to control your emotions as you do that. And that's hard for people. But if you go the route of, I'm not ready to have this conversation, I'm going to have it when I'm ready, the buildup gets to be so much that when you go to that person, whether it's me or somebody else, it's already a fight. It's already a problem. So be free flowing with your communication. Put out into the world the things that you want, or the things you want in the future, or one day, hey, could we have this? And you'd be surprised at how generous and great others are if they know what you want. Don't make them play a guessing game. I think that's the biggest feedback.
Well, do you think that speaking from your voice or being authentic, I mean, that's a process in itself to getting to that as an individual?
It is, but every person on planet Earth is vulnerable.
I agree, yeah.
So if you lean into that and you just have those conversations and say, listen, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but this is what I'm thinking. And you have that trust with somebody, that's good enough. You don't have to come in with a solution. You can come in with something that's important to you. I don't want to say it's a problem. Come in with something that's important to you and make it known that it's important to you. That is the key. And how you do it is the key. If I come in and make it sound important like it's a problem, now we have conflict. If I come in and say, this is important to me, I'd love to talk about this on your time whenever you're ready, like it's all good. Think of the difference in those two things.
Insanely different.
So it's the way you approach it, but you just have to work on being able to approach it quickly. Because the faster you can approach the issue, it gets dissolved right away. So stop trying to be perfect. It ain't ever going to work that way.
Well, there's 2 parts to this. One, I feel like I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying is more of your lifestyle, living in that vulnerability, that authenticity. Like, if I live like that, then there's no build up to it, because this is like, I'm in tune with where I'm at. I'm in tune with my emotions, or I'm in tune with how I'm feeling, and I know what I'm saying. Now, I could be wrong. And that's what I heard you just say just now. Like, if I'm saying this is a problem, then I'm setting my foot and saying that I'm right.
Yeah, and maybe you don't know the whole story.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm hearing.
So come in and say, educate me.
Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing a lot of, and tell me what you think about this. I'm hearing a lot of the way in which you just live in general is being able to be yourself in general. It allows you to not have the buildup.
Yeah, this is a funny way to describe it, but I think the easiest way to do it is, I have so many conversations with people that sometimes someone will come up to me pretty often and say, hey, did you say this? Did you say that? And my answer will be, listen, I don't remember if I said it or not, But here's what I would say in that situation.
Sure.
So if I'm always just speaking what I think and my truth, I never have to think about what I said or who I said it to or how I said it.
Yeah.
So then I just answer the questions in real time and say, I don't remember that, but here's my opinion on that.
Yeah.
Is that what they said I said? Oh, I'll go talk to them if they said that's not what I said. You know, and you cut the crap out of it so quickly. It's so easy to do, but it took time to get to that point. So it's like, you know, it's like LeBron saying it's easy to dunk. You know, I don't know. You got to work on it a lot.
Well, you said that was if I were to put like, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why I stopped drinking, but that was, if I were to say like, this is like a major reason why I stopped drinking is for what you just said.
Oh yeah.
Because I realized, I didn't realize this when I first stopped drinking, but what I realized a few months down the road is that like people would come up to me and say, you said this or something along those lines. And it was noticeably one of the first times in my life that conversation didn't rattle me because the only way I understand that and relate that to is drinking.
Yeah.
Because I know that when I would drink, even just a little bit, I could just have a buzz or 2 drinks or something. I know that I'm very prone to elaborate. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm like you. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I'm in social environments. I'm on teams. So I was regularly having a drink or two regularly, and meeting people regularly. You know, I'm exposed to tons of people, and that would always catch me in my whole life. Like I would always get caught on that, and I would get really frustrated. And anytime I got most frustrated, it was partially because I was lying. See what I'm saying?
Oh no, I've told this story and I've gone too far.
Yeah, and so I realized that was one of the like positive results for me that kind of continued to motivate me or sustain me to not drink. And that has nothing to do with whether I think drinking is good or bad for people. That's irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter. For me personally, it was like a thing in my life where I realized that the anxiety of what I said left.
Well, it's hard. It's hard to self-assess because it's fun.
It's great.
You know, you're hilarious to be around when you're drinking.
Good drinker.
Maybe that doesn't mean it's the best thing for you.
I'm a really good drinker.
So that's
one of the problems.
That's you're cutting a big part of your playbook out there. You know, you can go to that and you can.
Well, that's why I love listening to you talk about identity changes, because that was also one of the intimidating parts of that, because it was like letting go of something that I was so loved with.
Yeah.
Like I was like so loved by people to go out and have a drink with.
Yeah. The other part of that is it's so hard to describe something important like that in your life that you're working on and why you're working on it, and not having people go, well, did you have a problem?
Right.
Or going like, all right, yeah, we know you're not drinking. It's like, well, can I share that with the people I love, that I'm working on this? This is something that's important to me. Here's my journey.
Yeah.
It's just like saying, oh, I had a good lesson the other day. It's like, yeah, I went another couple of days without having a drink. It was great.
Yeah.
But we can't, I wish people could share more, like share. Like, I love when you say those things, like, really, you're still doing that, huh? Okay. What do you think? A glass of wine? How's that going to work? Like, it's interesting. People should take more interest in those moments instead of being like, oh, good for you. It's like, be interested in that moment. Ask more questions.
Well, I think that's where it comes back to where I was asking you about with community, because it's hard to have at least for me, I don't have that much interest in that many people. I'm just not interested in being interested, because it takes up time and energy. So it's like, that's one reason why I love being alone. You've known that about me for so long, because the thing that destroys me is going to be with somebody, spending time with anybody, and it's for the sake of meeting people generally, having a surface discussion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That will destroy me.
Yep.
Because I'm fine in solitude. I love solitude. So to take that from me would destroy me.
Haven't you gone to places and said, we don't have to do this right now?
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite. Yeah. Harv goes to a place with somebody and they're like, so what do you do? He goes, we don't have to do this. We can just sit here and we could just enjoy our night. I understand why she does. I love it, Chelsea. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, Chelsea hates that. Okay, I gotta go. I've had a thought, and that got me off. I had it the whole time, but Now I'm blanking. It's going to come back to me. I don't
You're
want.
without words.
No, well, because this is another thing that I think is really, really interests me about you. And you've been talking about it a lot. This whole the main theme of what we've been talking about. But when you get to a place, well, let's call it egoless, just for entertainment value, and you become egoless. And as someone who's known you for a long time, I feel like I feel that on you a lot more now. Maybe I wouldn't have been able to understand it then because it wasn't as less, but like now,
Way more.
yeah. So now it's like, okay, well, there's definitely a different person that I'm talking to now. And you have characteristics of so many things of your former Steve, but like there's this guy here who I enjoy, by the way.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love this guy. But let's just call it egoless for the sake of where we've been in the whole conversation.
For the sake of, to be clear, as he goes through this, I definitely have an ego, but it's just way less.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
Yes.
when you have way less of an ego,
Yeah.
and yet you've accomplished so many things with an ego, how are you managing that current landscape?
Oh, it's just more fun. It's just more enjoyable. I think about the times that there were times, especially in the Egan facility, which was our last facility, that I would be walking around like George Costanza, like looking busy, just so people were like, Steve's working hard. And I think back about that stuff. I'm like, how stupid was that? Why did you do that? But at that time, it was purely like thinking about this person, this role that I was playing, that I was such a hard worker. And you can work hard and also have fun.
Yeah.
You can work hard and be pleasant. And getting over those humps were really important for me because a lot of it, honestly, is you realize how stupid you were.
Yeah.
Like, what a stupid thing. I ruined my day just to prove to everyone that I was working hard when I wasn't.
Yeah.
Good use of time.
Nailed it.
Smart. So I think that's looking back and laughing at that person, I think helps a lot and doesn't allow for them to come back because you go, was that really what you want to do? Like, was that fulfilling? And when you do go through seeing death for the first time and you realize that it's going to happen to you, you just don't care as much about all that stuff. You just care about finding out what makes people joyful and what makes them feel fulfilled. And then you just go chase that all the time. And it's just everything gets simplified. I don't know if that answered your question. It was more of a rabbit hole, but that would be how I answer it.
No, that's a great answer. I think what stands out to me is there a fear that guy does come back?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, Tom used to talk to me all the time, and Tom's not one who does these kind of check-ins all the time. So when he does, it's meaningful. He's like, hey, I'm a little worried about what's going to happen when we move into this building.
Really?
Because it's like, are you going to be all right? Like on the other side of this, because you've been so focused on it.
And he was in tune with that.
Yeah, he was in tune with that. So I started thinking,
He's such a stud.
right when he said that, I was like, am I way off the deep end here? Or am I just doing what needs to be done? I'm ready to go hit right now.
Yeah, you are. You're hitting right now. You're crushing it.
Am I ready to go? Oh no, Veely. Don't drop it, Mart. So I think that's the interesting part, is listening to the people around you will give you the clues of how you're acting and where you're at. And if you're willing to hear them and check in, you'll get back to center pretty quick. But you need that. It comes back to community. You need somebody who's willing to tell you, hey, man, at the end of this, I'm a little bit worried about you.
Yeah.
Don't know what you're going to be doing. You might want to start thinking about that. You need friends like that who will call you in the big times, in the tough times.
So what is your relationship with working with friends then? Full circle.
So I think now it has become back to feeling like we're friends again. That is a really tough part. That's the hardest part of my job.
In general?
In general, it's the hardest part of my job. Because what happens is that process we talked about where your job morphs, you naturally, just on a day-to-day basis, see the people that you're building the business with less, and you're doing things that are for them and for you, but just for everybody. But because of proximity, you lose that bond. But when you're the person who does the flow off, you don't lose that bond, because I'm still thinking we're lockstep, but we're not, because we don't see each other all the time. So I'm trying to put myself now into more situations where I'm with everybody and I'm talking to everybody and I'm around everybody and I'm coaching with everybody. And it's an all encompassing role instead of just going, I have to do this as the owner. It's like my responsibility right now. And now my responsibility is to get back with the people, which is why I work here. I would not work here if it wasn't for the people. I'd leave, I just would. So that's the fun part, is getting back with the people that I care about, and why I went through the shitty part that I went through. It was to enjoy this part.
Yeah.
So I'll be damned if I'm not gonna, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm going to, and I hope that everyone will with me.
Yeah.
That's the mindset.
I love that. What's the, how's your balance between that, the people, and building a community and being present with people, and then also being a very successful business that's on social? Because that's a big part.
That's on social?
Well, you're on social. Your guys' marketing and social.
Can you ask it again in a different way? I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
I look at it as you can be up to date in everything. Well, let's just highlight MASH.
Yeah.
You can be up to date to MASH on MASH regularly.
Yep.
The news of MASH, if you're paying attention to it, like anything, you can stay updated to the community.
Yeah.
And that doesn't just happen. Like, there's a significant amount of work that goes into making sure there's regular news being put out about MASH.
Yeah. Well,
I'm asking from two sides. Like,
it's actually the reason. So Rhett Hebig does all of our social media.
So I asked it better that time.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, I'm going to answer. You tell me if I completely swing
it's
in
all
this.
made up.
Yeah, it's sorry.
Yeah.
But Rhett Hebig is amazing. Like, he does video, he does social, he does website, he does everything for us. It's incredible what he does. And I used to do our social media, but it wasn't good. It was just updating what was going on. So I found myself working with him. I work with Tom, my business partner, the most. And the second most, I work with Rhett. Because we're telling the story, and it's my number one way that I can tell the story quickly.
Well, then I'm super happy I asked that question.
Yeah, and that's the benefit. So, like, my relationship with Rhett has blossomed from when we first started to now. It's like completely different because he knows the journey, because I'm telling the story to him and he just nails it every time. Like, oh, we want to do that. Boop, 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 bop, bop, bop. Boop. It's out. And I'm like, well, that is sick.
Yeah.
Well done. That got our point across. So having somebody as talented as him tell the story has helped me emotionally a lot, because without him, I think that the world and our entire community would be more disconnected, because he's amazing.
He is really talented. And I'm happy his voice is in the beginning of this show.
And that he's going to clip all this.
Yeah, and exactly. Make sure he hears that. No free shire. No, but get that out of here. We're in April size. Brother.
It's April.
We're battling, dude. Battling here. I mean, waking up in Minnesota in April is a battle.
Yeah, you never know. It's May. It's May and beyond. That's what you're here for.
How has telling stories via social media changed over the last decade?
Oh, I think that I hate to sound like a podcast clip here. I feel like it's one of these clip things, but it's played really well into our hand, because people want to hear stories about people and not brands as much. And we have a lot of interesting people that work here. So that's also one of the reasons I'm excited to get this thing going, is because I want people to see the weirdos, the island of misfit toys. This is that. It's an island of misfit toys, and they need to get on camera and they need to see the people behind the brand. And Rhett does a great job of doing that. Yeah, you got to put the MASH M out there as much as you can. But more importantly, the cool stories that happen here, that's what we do. And to be able to do that through social media, I think we use the platform for good, which makes me feel good and is fun to use. So the more that we can tell stories about actual people, players, parents, the better. And that's what we try to focus on majority of the time.
Do you feel like with the mass amount of stuff that is on social now, I'm going more general, and then having a community that's only grown, how much how much are you experiencing from people on where are we at as a culture of how important it is to have in real time transaction and real time communication and connection in the last 10 years, really, from your seat? What's that like with people in 2012 to now 2025? So in 2025, you have worked with people the whole time. So have people changed? We'll ask it in both ways, social and in real time. But what have you noticed? Maybe changed, haven't changed, but what have you noticed about talking to people now? Let me ask this a little bit deeper. Can I go a little bit deeper?
It's your show.
Well, think about it as a 15-year-old, for instance. Okay, well, the 15-year-old, Steve was 22 when he started. Now, what are you, 36? So now he's 36. So he's gone from 22 to 36, where the 15-year-old has remained the 15-year-old.
Got it. Yeah. I hope that it's getting a little bit better. I hope it reached its peak. And what I mean by that is I feel really bad for the first kids that we started with because I know you're really interested in social media stuff. When we first started, that was the wave of that generation grew up with it, and it was at its peak, like, growth. And so there were so many athletes that came through here that were getting a lot of love on social media, you know, like 3,000 likes on their post of their hockey post, of their basketball dunk in their big high school game. And then they moved on from that. And I genuinely have noticed that those kids have really struggled because they were they were like pioneers of that. And they've struggled when they've gotten into the professional world of recalibrating what all of that meant because they were the guinea pig of it. And now social media is just it's just a fabric of everyone's lives.
Yeah.
That's really just a choice of how they use it. Like, they're on their phones too much, yeah, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's determining whether you're a good or bad kid. This is my opinion. I think your parents do and your role models do, just because of how often they are on it.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They're too exposed to it. So everybody has access to it. So it's really not that special, you know? Everybody can post anything and have it look special.
Yeah.
So I think the renaissance of them coming back off those things is coming. And, you know, I'm a positive thinker. I think that can happen. But I think that the millennials, myself and yourself, I think will be a really good balance for all of that because we know what it was like to not have it. And we understand what it's like to have it. I think we're the best generation for that. Like, it's our responsibility.
Yeah,
it's our responsibility.
I feel that same responsibility.
Well, think about it. Like, that was not a part of our lives. I wasn't doing that. I did it in my early 20s to try to get attention from girls. That's what I used Instagram for.
Yeah.
And these people are like building their brand off of it.
Which was largely what it was built for when we were first exposed.
That was it. I talk about it all the time. It's funny. If you go on my profile, you can see the moment that I realized, oh, that's not what this is supposed to be for anymore. You can like see it. You're like, oh, yep, right there. You grew up. You grew up right there. Where kids now are just using it so much. And I hope that the millennials will basically be like, yeah, you're not getting one of those until you're 17, 18 years old. Like, I just think that shift will happen.
I agree.
I just do.
I agree. I remember when I was in high school, I was ranked, my junior year, I wasn't ranked in the top 40 in our county, our Oakland County, and it devastated me. And the next year, I came in second behind Mr. DJ LeMahieu. Shout out to DJ.
Good player.
Good player. He had a good career, still playing.
They picked the right guy.
He's a good dude, too. And, but where I'm going with that is, it motivated me, which I think drives a lot of athletes' comparisons to those things. And I was devastated that I wasn't in the top 40. I was mind blown by it, particularly. I couldn't understand it. But where I'm going with this is it also is the first time that I found out about 40 other people.
Yep.
And that was the only people I wanted to beat.
Yep.
And then I was able to climb all the way to the top the following year and be ranked second of these, and it's still 40. And so when I left high school, the bucket of 40 was like my exposure. Like, those were the only people I even knew that were in the state.
Yep.
You know, so when I went to college and played baseball at Central Michigan, and then there were kids on there with 13 of them, and I knew the people who were in my county, the 3 of them, And then of the other 10 that weren't from the county, I never knew who they were.
You still had wonders, I like to say.
Yeah.
The wonder of college. You had no idea who anybody was.
Yeah, I didn't know where they played, didn't know who they were with until I met them, and then got to ask them questions. I think that now what's interesting is that you have all kinds of there's like a 500 ranking nationally, regionally.
Not only that, but what happens is you have the ability to research people. So you come into conversations now with a preconceived notion of knowing what that person's about, where you showed up on campus and it was like, I had no idea. I'm about to make a judgment right here, right now.
For sure.
I don't know who you are. Now there's a story where if people are taking that too seriously, they come into that conversation thinking they know this person.
Yeah.
And they don't know him at all.
It's funny you say that. I was working with a guy, I'll not say his name, but I was working with this guy recently, and I met him, and he was asking me a bunch of questions about people I've worked with. And I said to him, I was like, I'd say one of the hardest things about working with people as a coach now, comparison to when I first started, was what you just said. I was like, because I know this guy, and he's got some stuff on social and online and videos and movies and stuff like that. So it's like, when I saw him, that was the first thing I actually said in the first day I ever met him. I was like, I've seen you for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, I know you.
Yep.
According to that.
Yeah.
Like, I know so much about you. But it makes it really, I said that was like that's one of the current most difficult things about teaching, because you have to spend so much headspace of trying to meet them in real time, in the moment, and meeting them as that person. And that's really difficult.
Yeah, I had to just try to throw those things out the window. Like, let everyone start with a blank slate in person.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reality we have to live in. Like, the other stuff is entertaining and it's informative. And I mean, I love it because I can see, my college teammates' kids grow up, and like, it means a lot to me, but I don't know how that's going. Like, I don't know what his kids are like.
Right.
I just see that they're happy at the water park.
Yeah.
So it's my job to make sure that I'm not taking that as I'm following along. I need to ask the questions. I need to get back into the reality of the situation.
Well, that's why I asked you about community and networking, because I think sometimes we start wrapping up here too, but I think sometimes I'll speak for me generally. I think it's not, I don't find it relevant to be in touch with everybody's lives. Like when we had Oliver, we never showed anybody. And you know me, I do everything as a social experiment.
Yep.
So when I was going to have my first kid, first thing that popped off in my head was like, I want to go learn about human behavior. So I'm going to do this experiment. Yeah. And one of the experiments was I was very adamant about not posting anything about pregnancy, because I wanted to see what real-time responses would be. And so Chelsea and I didn't tell anybody. Super close friends. People, like, I don't even know when I told you. Like,
you did. Somebody else told me.
Yeah.
Tony or Tom told me.
Never told anybody.
Yeah.
We never told anybody until he was born. Truly.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. But what I learned about that was, for instance, we had a really close friend, Austin Hansen, actually, ran into Chelsea at a Minnesota Vikings game when she was about 7.5 months pregnant.
Goo!
And he freaked out.
Yeah.
But the point is, what I learned about that is, what was so beautiful about that was that every person around because we're global people now, right? People travel. You see that we're just moving so fast in society, not the Martins per se, like all of us. And one of the things that I noticed that I really enjoyed about that decision was it was a surprise for us every time. So every person got to experience
how cool
the
is that?
surprise with us.
Yeah, there was no post.
No.
There was no, hey, heard this.
Yeah.
No, you just heard it right now, baby.
Yeah, so that was beautiful, and I would do that again.
Did you guys know it was a boy or girl?
We didn't know.
I love that too.
Yeah.
Anybody who does that, I hope that we do it that way too.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what we got. Let's
fun.
go. It's got to be fun.
It's really exhilarating, and it also like doesn't allow you to create any preconceived like notions of what your kid's going to be. Like, you don't start planning. You can't, because you don't know. Yeah. So I really liked that, but I really liked not ever telling anybody. But the paradox to that, the frustrating part that was odd, that I felt bad about, was how often people felt bad that they didn't know. Yeah, and that that kind of got annoying a handful of times, of like having to constantly be like, hey, like, it's okay.
Well, as a callback, I think that's the key, right? Is explaining what you just said to those people and being like, this is why we did it.
Yeah.
So we can have this moment.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now.
And that was beautiful. So I guess what I'm saying is a long way of saying I think often about community and how many people you're supposed to even communicate with. Because I don't think that, when we think about people that we're friends with, think of all the people that you've met and you've been friends with. And what's been weird about social media for the millennials, and obviously the younger generations will have it, but what I think has been really interesting about growing up in this age is feeling some odd obligation as if I need to know that you got married.
Yeah.
Or I have to carry a hold of these 400 friends that I've had, and you have to remain relevant in my life. And it's not irrelevant in my life. Like, I don't care about you. I just talked to a guy who I played youth baseball with, hadn't talked to him in 20 years. And it was a beautiful conversation. We both said, I love you at the end of it. And I meant it and he did, but it's interesting because that was actually one of the guys who had said, I didn't know you had a kid. I feel so bad. And all I could think about was, dude, I haven't seen you in
Why on earth would you know that?
I haven't seen you in 20 years. You don't have to know I'm married.
Yeah.
You don't have to know anything.
We're doing it right now.
Yeah. So
That's the fun part, man. I'm really glad you do that because that's something that I hope I can do. Like, I think about that a lot in my relationship. Like, we try to just keep that. There is certain things you just got to keep to yourself.
Yeah.
And that just feels to be one of them, the personal stuff. And I haven't even thought of the aspect, because I haven't gone through those things yet, of the enjoyment you get when you do see people.
Yeah.
And you do talk about it. That's got to be so fun.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's got to be. So I'll probably do it that way. I hope. I'm not the boss, but hopefully I can get my persuasion in enough to have us do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty dialed in on stuff like that. So I think whatever way you do it will be the best way you could do it. You got anything?
No, I think this was a great time. I think this was a good initial kickoff. If anyone's still listening, thanks. Good for you. You must think we're interesting.
It felt good.
It was more for us than for anyone else.
Back in the saddle. What for MASH? Just give some pub to MASH. How can people follow MASH? What's coming down the chute?
Go to @Minnesota MASH. Go follow us. We got softball. We got baseball. We got performance. We're starting a school here in the upcoming fall. Just a bunch of American-made people just going to live the American dream. It's a fun story. It's a good follow, whether you like baseball or not.
Hey, man. Cheers, folks.
Program.
Take care.
We don't.